Hello, and welcome to the fourth video of our series on intelligent automation, brought to you by Combined Intelligence and Digital Workforce. Each of our videos is slightly under 15 minutes long and designed to give you insights and inspiration into how you can accelerate your intelligent process automation journey. The topic of this video is what to automate. Success with intelligent process automation, both initially and as you progress on your automating at scale, depends heavily on selecting and automating the right opportunities. So in this video, we'll discuss how to identify good opportunities for automation, including how to properly quantify the benefits and, importantly, how to estimate the effort involved when delivering. If you missed any of the previous videos in our series or you want to catch up for future videos, then please follow us on LinkedIn and subscribe through the links provided in this video. The videos are being released during May and June 2021, and the topics are listed on the slide. You're also warmly welcome to register into our free interactive webinar session on intelligent automation that we're hosting on June 17, 2021. The link to registration is posted with this video. You can also submit questions for us to answer during that webinar. I'm Karri Lehtonen. I'm the Head of Business Development at Digital Workforce. We're a global advisory and services provider in the field of intelligent automation. And with me, we have Steve Sheppard and Tomi Kruuti. Steve, would you mind introducing yourself?
Thanks, Karri. Hi, I'm Steve Sheppard. I'm from Combined Intelligence. We help organisations realise the full potential from intelligent technologies, supporting organisations from vision through to realisation. Tomi?
Yeah, hi. So Tomi Kruuti from Digital Workforce as well. And I've been with the company for almost 5 years now, currently managing our project management office and so basically planning our resourcing and developing our general project management initiatives altogether throughout the organization.
Fantastic. Very, very happy to have you on board, Tomi. So on today's topic, my first question on what to automate would go to Tomi. And basically, just Tomi, in your own words, what makes a good opportunity for intelligent automation?
Yes. So basically, of course, there's quite a few different things that we look at with different processes, but the main aspect, of course, is that it's a very routine-based process and requires kind of a very structured data that is used and very clear instructions on how the process is managed from beginning to end. But then when we look at these specific opportunities, it also depends on the kind of maturity of the organization on where they are in the RPA journey altogether. So in the early stages, it's more about the kind of learning aspect and expectation management on what RPA and IPA can really do altogether, and just getting into the right mindset and getting those learnings from the first processes. So in this manner, it's good to start off with some maybe simpler processes and so forth before then moving on into the more complex and challenging processes. So this is definitely how the early stage goes. But then when moving on to the middle ground, so to say, when you already have some experience with process automation, then you can use this learned opportunity to kind of focus on the more challenging processes and even go into the core business areas. So in the early stage, it might be better to focus on the support functions and so forth. But in the core, then it is more about the kind of general business areas that you can look into. And once this has been completed and you're already on a good track with the automation journey, then you can already start looking at potential re-engineering of more complex processes before you then apply certain automation techniques and technologies into these ones.
Fantastic. So sounds to me like you have to learn how to walk before you run.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it goes, definitely.
Good. So Steve, maybe a follow-up question for you. So how do you quantify the benefits versus the cost in terms of automation? Because you have a lot of choice, but then you probably want to prioritize them somehow.
Yeah, I'll just pick up on that last question just before I go on and talk costs and benefit. I think, you know, the key bit, and Tomi touched on it with regard to the maturity of where the organisation is on its journey. You know, that early phase of achieving success, it's, you know, don't bite off more than you can chew. You know, make sure that first phase is successful, because there's a lot to be said around how you manage expectation within the organisation with regard to what the technology can achieve, but also you get the right mindset with the team, with the operations staff, with everyone involved in the solution, who are going to be affected by automation, that they're on board and they can see the value. So that early success is key. The other one I would sort of pick up, which I think links onto one of our future videos, is the transition from task-based automation, which is what a lot of people will sort of initially do, where they will focus on what a team does, for example, and automate the tasks, the common repetitive tasks that team does. But then it's that transition to end-to-end process and bringing in things like intelligent technologies such as you know, natural language processing, for example, for processing documents and free-form text, and to be able to use that in much more complex processes as you get confident and experienced in the whole maturity cycle, and really get it into a transformational state. So that was me quickly going on the previous question. Now let me pick up on sort of the cost benefit side of things. You know, this is always a bit of a challenge, particularly when you're setting out and if you've not done you know, in automation that much before, is understanding what is the cost versus the benefit. Because ultimately, you need to look at this as, you know, what's the value to the organisation? Why are we doing this? You know, the outcome needs to be of greater value than the cost to do it. Importantly, though, value is a lot more than just bottom line costs, and I'll touch on that in a sec. But I think if you look at cost, you know, if you break it into, you know, you've got a setup cost, particularly if you're starting out fresh with a new program, you know, getting that infrastructure, whether that's cloud, whether that's on-premise, whatever it is, getting that set up. But then there might be an incremental as you scale out as well, as you increase the capacity of your automations to be able to run in your environment. You're then going to estimate the work involved. And I think we'll have a question on that in a sec, so I won't go into that in much detail. But then you also need to factor in, well, actually, once you've completed the work and it's gone live, there is a period of operation. And with the nature of some of these technologies, particularly if you're using things like UI automation, then you need to factor in a level of maintenance and support, cope with change, cope with process change as well as system change, and that has an ongoing cost. And that should form part of the business case for justifying that. But then if we look at benefits, you know, one of the core drivers for many organisations is the bottom line saving that automation can help with. And that is a key driver for why businesses do this. But that, you know, pure direct cost saving that you can achieve perhaps by, you know, reducing the workforce who need to do a particular activity, you know, also you need to factor in, well, actually some of that time that we're now freeing up can be added to give the team more chance to do greater value work. And it shouldn't purely just be played as, well, we just reduce the amount of time, so we'll reduce the number of people involved. Actually, let's go with the value that we can provide. There's also non-direct benefits around quality, accuracy, consistency, speed, reliability, and so on, that the technology will give to the business that should be part of the benefit calculation, even if it's not quite so easy to calculate that as a direct saving. And ultimately, you're talking about what's the value to the organisation, not just those cost elements, but, for example, could we improve customer satisfaction? Could we improve the employee experience? So, you know, we need to quantify all of those elements to be able to say why we're doing this is a good thing, and to ensure that that business case is positive.
Yeah, that's a very good point. What we've seen also is sort of risk mitigation in certain areas as well, making sure that certain mandatory processes are automated so no one misses the boat when the, like, I don't know, tax deadlines or whatnot come around. So yeah, very good point. Yeah, that brings me to my next question. This one is more for Tomi, based on his extensive experience in sort of building this stuff is how do you estimate the work involved, building an automation? What are the elements?
Yeah, right. This is a very good and valid question, of course. So there are quite a few different areas that we look into, but the main thing that we begin with usually is just the number of applications and the complexity of the process. So of course, the more applications are involved, the more credentials you need and so forth to be built into the solution altogether, and it will usually make the process more complex and so forth. Then of course, the general business logic behind what is being done in the process is something that can make the process a heavy workload, or then it can be quite a simple task and so forth. So then it will not be so much work to complete the whole aspect. And then of course, even the fact of how much time will be needed for the testing of the process. If there are very heavy cases and large cases that need to be processed, then of course it will require more testing and kind of this hypercare phase in the production stage before we can trust the process to run normally there in the background. And so this is definitely the main areas that we begin with. And then of course with every process, if you want to have some kind of idea what the process really does in the end after a few years it has been in the production, then you do need to have some kind of documentation in place. And this is for the solution as well as the general process, the step-by-step work things that are being done in the beginning. So these are pretty much the main areas that we look into when starting off with any process. And of course, like in the first slide was mentioned, that it also depends on the kind of maturity of the organization. So once you have certain parts already in place, then the whole operations will scale a lot better, and then you can kind of get those benefits from the cost side once you move further into new processes.
Yeah, fantastic. Really interesting stuff. One thing that it strikes me as missing from here is you don't put much weight on what, for example, technology, RPA technology is in use. So I guess that's really relevant in terms of this.
At least right now we see with most of the technologies that are in place that it does not really affect on the workload as much. But then of course there are certain systems that work better with one software than the other. So of course this is something that is good to keep in mind altogether with the work estimate.
Thanks, Tomi. That's really helpful. That's a lot of food for thought. Steve, any final thoughts from you before we close up?
I suppose the only sort of one thing I would add is sort of referring back to the 80-20 rule. Sometimes you can actually achieve 80% of an automation with 20% of the work. And actually that might be the right time to stop and move on to a different process. If you've actually achieved that 80%, but to get the rest of it, it's going to be a lot of hard work, and actually the return and the value of doing that remaining 20% may be lower than moving on to other processes. I've seen this a couple of times within organizations where they do departmental-based automation and they spend an awful lot of time in one department, but actually they achieve that initial 80% of value very quickly, but they spent then an awful lot of time tidying up all the rest. Look at the bigger picture and see how you can, make best use of your resources to deliver the highest value as quickly as possible, rather than always doing 100% of everything.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, thanks. Great point. All right, thank you for watching our video. We hope you found it very interesting. This is the 4th video in our series of videos that we are releasing during May and June 2021. We've included a few links which provide you the option to subscribe the notifications on future videos, as well as the links to the previous ones. You can also register to our free live interactive webinar on June 17th, which forms the culmination of our discussion on intelligent automation. You're very welcome to send us specific questions that you would like us to answer during the webinar as well. Thank you very much.